Dlawer Ala'aldeen is the founding president of the Middle East Research Institute, former Minister of Education, Higher Education and Scientific Research in Kurdistan Regional Government, and Professor of Medicine in Nottingham University, medical doctor. He's also a friend. Dlawer, I've been hearing you in different capacity in this meeting and in previous meeting, and you are always very clear-minded in assessing what's going on in the world. But we are now concentrating a little bit on your country, because while tension escalates in the Middle East, Iraq has to balance relationship with both the United States and Iran. How is this reflecting Baghdad's international stance?
Well, we went through a very complex and tough period for the last 2 decades. But recently, with this new prime minister, the environment has been better or different at least. The American outlook about the Middle East and Iraq been different. And Iran is more realistic. But also internally, everybody gave this prime minister the benefit of the doubt and wanted him to improve life for everybody. So this government engaged both the United States and Iran in a very direct but professional way with confidence. For example, the prime minister went to Iran and said, "You're my strategic partner, you're our biggest neighbor, you're very important to us, but our relationship should not be at the expense of the Americans, who are also very important to us." And then went to Washington and said exactly the same to them, saying our relationship with you can progress, can actually evolve into something strategic, mutually rewarding, but should not be at the expense of Iran. That was actually critical. But also his approach to foreign policy in general and dealing with the neighbors have been on similar footing. And that is, every relationship with every country should be based on mutual interest, pragmatism, as well as co-investment. So this spirit transformed relations with Turkey, with the Gulf, as well as with the other countries in the region. That includes Egypt and Jordan. Imagine that the Gulf states, as well as United States, they looked at this government of Iraq with suspicion initially, because it is a product of the coordination framework that is dominated by pro-Iranian forces, including PMF, i.e. the Hashd al-Sha'bi. But nonetheless, he was able to win their trust and even invite them to invest in Iraq. For the first time, we see inward investment from these countries with confidence in Iraq's long term.
You anticipated my next question, which was on al-Sudani, on Prime Minister. You gave already a positive feedback on what he's doing internationally. But let me turn to his approach internally. Can we speak of a relative stability internally?
Yes, one has to remember that Iraq's structural problems are still there. We have a fragile state that is struggling with weak institutions, that this elite of today that has been in power for the last 21 years have failed to translate the constitution into a roadmap for state building for a sovereign, strong country. They have not done that. And we're struggling with balancing the state and non-state actors, with the economy that is dependent on oil, with population that is growing more than 1 million each year, now reached 45 million plus. So all of these structural problems are there, but this government is not pretending that it's going to tackle them all. What they have done successfully, however, is to rally support of all the existing powers across the country, and then get the parliament to approve the biggest budget that in the Iraq's history, and that is 3 years budget in one go, and invested that in infrastructure and big mega projects that would be of attraction to the neighbors as well as Iraqis and creating jobs. They also tried to improve relations between the center and periphery. So engaging all the actors internally in a constructive way, focusing them on services, on infrastructure, on good political sort of dialogue, has made Iraq more stable. To the extent that until this government was formed, the non-state actors, the extreme Fasailes, for example, were doing their own thing, acting independently, with no one to negotiate any way forward with them, whereas this government has constantly engaged them and the other Hashd al-Sha'bi groups, prevented them from dragging Iraq into unnecessary crisis and escalation of conflict?
I guess from what you said, I mean, it's fresh air. I mean, we are here at the Rome Med, and the atmosphere is not always very positive, if I may say. Okay, we are waiting for the possible pause in Lebanon, but the global discussion is on what's going on is, I can't say it's very positive, but you are giving us a reason of hope on your country. Can I say that the Kurdistan government stance reflects what you said?
The Kurdistan government always found itself having problems engaging Baghdad in the successive governments. With this government, they made a very good start in that, A, they established good communication. The rapport between the Prime Minister in Baghdad and the Prime Minister, as well as the KRG leaders, have been on very friendly terms. They tackle issues, they communicate, they try to find a halfway house, but they have not been able to transform that into dealing with the root causes of the conflict and problem between the two. Baghdad-Erbil relationship needs institutionalization, needs a lot of legislations to underpin the relationship, the sharing of resources, sharing of power, devolution of power, as well as embracing Kurdistan region as an integral part of Iraq. So I would always say, remind my fellow Kurds as well, that the Kurdish side have not done enough to go to Baghdad and own it, feel that they want to share power, they want to be part of this, and they should unite their voices in Kurdistan before they go to Baghdad. They haven't done that effectively. Conversely, Baghdad leaders, the majority parties like the Shias, have not really embraced the Kurds as first-class citizens, although they do treat them like that. But actually look at how many gaps in the constitution remain that relate to relationship with Kurdistan. And they have not really considered the Kurds as the equal share of power, so that they don't have to think about independence, they don't have to think about having independent economy, independent political. So the two sides have not gone for this integration to the degree that you would expect from any country looking for stability. So that said, this government has made big progress, A, in preventing escalation of crisis. There's always a crisis there, but they have not allowed it to go beyond control. But they have not really they have not really solved the oil problem, the budget problem, as well as the disputed territories problem, where there are big ongoing conflicts, maybe for some time to come.
You are, as I said, a medical doctor, and your family name is the name of a powerful genius, the genius of the lamp. So let's combine these two features. So you can, looking at the region, you can see what needs to be done, and you have the power as the genius of the lamp to enforce what needs to be done. What needs to be done in the region? Let's just mention three things, three items, three efforts, three action that will reshape the region and give the region the future of peace and prosperity, which is needed.
Well, the dynamics of security as well as politics and economy in the region, you can actually look at it like an onion in different layers. We have internal, local dynamic, very directly linked to regional dynamic, very directly linked to the global dynamic. And that includes the power competitions at all three levels. On all three levels, we lack something really big, and that is leadership. We have suffered from, at the global level, any one power coming in, engaging everybody constructively and providing leadership for stability, for dialogue, for investment, for collective agreement that this area needs to be stable. We are still looking for that role. United States is in a strong position to provide that leadership, but they engage and disengage, they do something interventionist and then withdraw. So the uncertainty about their direction, change of administration is not allowing that. Europe is in a strong position. They're trusted. They have a good track record for saving Iraq from going downhill, for saving Iraq from ISIS and from breaking apart. And they have invested seriously in the past, and people trust them. Yet they are not coming in to fill the vacuum and provide leadership. Leadership does not mean military, does not mean more money. It just means political engagement. That is on the western side, and on the eastern side, we don't see any attempt to come and lead a process that leads to stability.
So this is the external.
That's external. Then the regional one, when the United States or when the global powers disengage or leave us alone, you find emerging regional powers that become more and more powerful, but none of them interested in democratizing Iraq, stabilizing the region, or actually giving up for a moment their rivalry over territory and influence. So you find the regional powers are still at each other's throats, fighting for influence, and the consequence is that internally we're suffering the consequences because they are directly linked to the state and sub-state and non-state actors inside our countries. Then we have our problem of leadership problem internally. We have not had father figures. We have not had big efforts from the pan-Iraqi parties or pan-Iraqi efforts to then say enough is enough. We have a huge country, and very important in the region, huge resources under the ground, huge resources over the ground with the human resources. How can we make the most of it and behave like normal state and engage not only from the political and security side this region, but also lead a process where we can invite economic engagement with the Gulf, we can actually achieve peace with the other countries, desecuritize them, and invest in the future generations. And we have the potential even financially to do so. Internally, we are now reaching a stage where the leaders have realized their failure. They realize that the future can be much better. They sometimes act as though they have their own agency. They can engage the regional powers and global powers with confidence, because after all, to all of them, Iraq is important in more than one way, not just geopolitical, but also its ability to lead a process in the region. We are the only ones who can talk to Arabs, Turks, as well as the Iranians, let alone the Europeans and Americans. And internally, we have all the dynamic that can help. We have not had that level of leadership that nationally can invest in the state building, in nation building, in institutionalizing, in enhancing the state institutions, and in minimizing the power of the non-state actors. Remember, that leadership is needed even if the regional powers could be intervening or not, or the intervention could be limited or not. We are now entering a stage where everybody realizes that, but where does that come from? We don't know. So that is really, for me, the biggest gap in the landscape.
I mean, you left me more optimistic with the first question on your country than on the one on the regional level. But as I said at the beginning, you have always clear and honest assessment. And so it was a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paolo, as always.